Fenton's mom was definitely feeling some movement in her waters after McGurk did that.
Hello, and welcome back to Rewatching Home Movies, a weekly watch-along podcast where three friends break down the 1999 animated series, Home Movies. My name is Tim, and I'm obsessed with home movies.
My name's Adele, and I'm a home movies newbie.
And my name's Marcin, and I've never seen home movies.
Home Movies Season 2, Episode 5, titled The Party. Original air date February 3rd, 2002 on Adult Swim. Written by Brendan Small, Bill Broaddus, and cast. Directed by Lauren Bouchard. Produced by Melissa Barton-Galski. Synopsis for this episode. Brendan must make a film for Fenton Muley's birthday party. Meanwhile, Melissa tries to stop Jason's binging. Yeah. Go ahead.
My ears took a beating on this episode for sure.
Yeah.
I have thoughts, but I was so worried throughout the entire episode. Just that side. We'll get into it.
But first, why don't we jump into the creative corner, shall we? The creative corner, of course, being a little corner where we spotlight something creative that we are producing, consuming, whatever. Who would like to go first? Me. That's all of us. Guys, this is going to be kind of a special creative corner. I think this is going to be all three of us just all at the same time. And I don't think there's going to be specifically one thing that we want to spotlight. If I'm being completely honest right now, I know I am going through some stuff and I feel like maybe a lot of other people are as well. I feel like for this creative corner, let's just kind of talk about positive mental well-being. I think distractions are something a lot of people are looking for right now. Anything that you can throw out there to maybe help some people deal with some crummy situations they're dealing with. Does anyone have anything they want to bring to light first? If not, I actually have a really good little something.
Oh, yeah, you go first.
If you guys don't mind, I brought this up a couple episodes ago. We got an email not too long ago from a really nice gentleman by the name of Dr. Adam. Dr. Adam actually has his own podcast called The Sister Wives Professor. And he reached out to not only express how much he does enjoy our podcast, but if he ever wanted to do any cross promotion, or he even offered to be on an episode, which I think would be very interesting. He does body language and stuff like that. He released an episode on Wednesday of this week as we record called Be Still. That's just about being very aware of your mental health right now. There's a lot of things going on that make a lot of us feel helpless. Things that are going on kind of beyond our control. It's a very good listen. So I would recommend anyone to check out Dr. Adams, The Sister Wives Professor, and very specifically the episode he just released this week called Be Still. It was a very good episode. I reached out to him almost immediately after listening to it and expressed to him that I listened to this episode and took notes while smiling and crying. It was that's the way that it hit me. So we're all going to process our emotions in different ways, and we're all going to need different timelines to do so. And it's just some really good commentary on, dealing with stuff like that. So I would highly recommend checking out that podcast. And like I said, it's only 30 minutes. I made a post about it, and I said, just maybe go for a walk or clean, do something productive and listen to it, and maybe it'll be a help with some mindset adjustment.
Yeah, I gotta listen to that still.
Yeah, that's okay.
On the way here, because Tim and Adele picked me up from the train station, Tim just couldn't stop talking about this episode and how it made him feel good, so I definitely want to listen to it. The fact that it's coming from a Sister Wives podcast is just funny in such a weird sense, but advice and thoughtfulness comes from a lot of different places, so I definitely want to listen on that.
Yeah, absolutely. What about you guys? Have you been doing anything to maybe kind of help yourself out mentally or distract yourself, or just to kind of help you process things?
There's a lot of things that I have tried to use to distract myself. I was trying to think about, mostly it's watching TV shows and whatnot. And one of my comfort shows I had, especially in the pandemic when that happened, was Taskmaster. I love that show so so much. They just started dropping episodes on YouTube where you can get to it free. I don't have BBC. I don't have any like ways to watch British television. It was my first time trying to actually watch some British shows, and it was the first time I got to like see a lot of these people that I had seen on Doctor Who in like little tiny episodes and whatnot. That was the first thing, was watching Doctor Who. But Taskmaster is probably my favorite comfort show of all time, because it's just like every season is a new cast of people, and they just go through whatever little games that Alex Horne cooks up for them to do, and they get like points, and the person who's giving out the points is this guy whose opinion changes every episode. So it's really fun, and it's really clever. I have watched and binged every single episode of that series probably like 4 or 5 times, and it never gets old. And then not only that, but it has a podcast attached to that, who is hosted by the winner of one of the seasons, and he like he interviews people who love the show, interviews people who have been on the show, and they're all comedians, so obviously it's fun, and they're all really funny. I love Taskmaster so much that one of the things I've talked to Tim about like a bunch of times is doing a live show where I get 5 comedians and we all like get up and I do a version of like Taskmaster but in Joliet. I love Taskmaster so much, and it's made me feel so good in such dire places in my life, especially when it came out during the pandemic. I was just like, yes, thank you so much. I need all of this right now.
Needed.
Absolutely. And along those lines too, I think that's definitely the move. I listen to podcasts for entertainment and for education, sometimes for edutainment, but I've decided that it's probably best for me to shift my podcast listening into, just more lighthearted and comedic stuff. That's definitely one of the things I've done. I stopped at my parents' house today and talked to my dad for a little bit. My mom's not feeling too well. The first thing my dad told me was they're done consuming news. That's not really on their radar anymore. Mm-hmm. And then we proceeded to recommend like 6 different shows on Netflix to each other. It's so funny because my dad's like, I can't watch the news. I can't. Anyway, I'm watching this Netflix show about this couple that murders people. And I'm just like, all right, yeah, I guess that's better than whatever else. But yeah, no, I definitely think distractions can be good. If you're looking for a distraction, I would definitely look more lighthearted and comedic is the way to go with it.
Yeah. It's funny that you brought up comfort shows and Doctor Who in the same realm, because Doctor Who has always been my comfort show. I was just talking to Tim last night very briefly of like, maybe we should start the new season of Doctor Who just to get my mind off things. And I heard it's pretty good. So yeah, definitely positive distraction is great. I just wanted to kind of touch down on another, it's a different form of distraction for me, because I know everybody processes things differently. I distract myself with happy things, but also like I like to move through my emotions through media as well. So one of my big things that helped me heal during the pandemic was Bo Burnham's special Inside. It's so beautifully done, because not just from like a video aspect with it being so beautifully done visually, but he uses elements of comedy and relatability in just such beautiful, beautiful ways that touches the soul, that makes you just fucking cry out your emotions. As much as distraction is so important to just kind of keep yourself in check, so is moving through your emotions and releasing those as well. And I think that is such a great form of media to use. And everybody has their own. Some people like listening to sad music to move through their emotions. Some people like to watch movies to move through their emotions. Inside is definitely something that I hold dear. And re-listening to it in this day and age and from the perspective of now, like it meant things to me in a whole new light. It was like watching it again for the first time. And the comfort feeling that I got from it was something that I'm probably going to hold on to for the rest of my life. Whenever I'm feeling bad, I'm probably going to put that album on,
Yeah, and it's so wild, too, because that album came out in 2020 when people were dealing with a lot of emotions then as well. And I feel like although it definitely has like that time and place, like when you watch that, you kind of get the feeling of when it was made.
Absolutely.
Just because of the content of it. But simultaneously, when you listen to it today, it's relevant today for so many different reasons.
Absolutely. Yep. Mm-hmm.
So I think that really speaks to kind of the longevity of like what he made there, because it's simultaneously very representative of a very particular place and time, but then also so timeless at the same time.
Yeah. And what we were talking about it briefly before the podcast, it also is so inspirational to to see what he created in such an impactful thing, because I personally 100% believe that that's going to follow us through the generations. That album, I feel like it's such a timestamp of what's been happening. And yeah, I hope that something like that would encourage people nowadays to choose artistic endeavors and artistic projects to get their emotions out and to express themselves and to make a difference, because art makes a difference.
That's so wild you say that too, because one of the first questions I asked my dad when I saw him today, I was like, have you been painting? Mm-hmm. He's like, a little bit, but I'm just not really feeling. I'm like, he said he started like 3 different paintings since the beginning of this week, and he hasn't liked any of them.
At least he's trying.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
That's what his sentiment exactly. He's like, no, this is the time to paint and create and, put stuff out there. When I listened to Dr. Adam's episode, as soon as I listened to it, I immediately reached out to him and was very thankful and grateful. And I said, hey, I feel like I needed to hear this, and it couldn't have dropped at a better time. Thank you so much. Like I said, almost within the hour, he sent me an email, and he's like, what's really funny is I just sent a very similar email to a YouTube content creator that's been helping me process my emotions and cope with everything that's going on. So I think that's also maybe a nice thing to do, is when you do find that thing, if it's done by a small creator or something, you have the ability to reach out to those people and let them know, like, hey, just so you know, like, what you did, even if they released something years ago and you're just now finding it or using it or whatever, reaching out to those creators and letting them know that, hey, what you put out there had an impact on me and it's helping me deal with things. Not only does that mean the world to hear, because I've heard stuff like that about this very podcast. I literally, when I heard that, I reached out to another podcast I was listening to to be like, hey, I really enjoy your app. I think it's something that if more people were in tune to that, showing the appreciation for the content you consume, not only does it help the content creator, but then that maybe is like, oh shit, I do appreciate the content I consume, and I'd like to reach out to them as well.
Yeah.
I mean, I was going to point this out too, not point this out, but I agree with that so much, because a couple days ago when I was really down, I was playing a previous creative corner of mine was Marika. She made this amazing EP I really like, and I was just replaying it on repeat. And there's a specific song called Bones that I reached out to her because for the project Doorman, I really wanted to use that song, and she immediately was like, yeah. But it wasn't just because I was like, this song fits the scene, or it just sounds really great. When I first heard it, I felt so seen and heard in a way I've never really felt before with another song, and it was just like one of those comfort things. So that night at like 2 a.m, I just like sent that to her. I was like, listen, I'm not feeling too good. I'm sure you're not either, but I hope this isn't weird, but I just want you to know, like, this is how your music has affected me. And I really appreciate that you made it and made me feel so good. I was really worried about like sending that. I know I advocate for like sending stuff to small content creators to let them know, but it's so weird when you're like being vulnerable with someone you don't really know.
Yeah.
She was really nice, and she was like, I very much appreciate that, because we're all kind of feeling that. And I think that's something we need, is that community of reaching out to people who have affected us.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Because especially times like this, it's so easy for artists in general to lose their motivation. Mm-hmm. But honestly, times like this, the best time to produce art.
Absolutely.
The inspiration of tragedy is what builds the most memorable art, in my opinion. So
Absolutely.
Reaching out to the creators and the artists that you appreciate, especially when they're small like that could be the push they need to not only keep going, but to keep making art in general. And it's really important as the human race to create. It's one of the beautiful things about all this bullshit, you know?
Exactly. That's why I wanted to bring up about like Inside too, because when I first saw that, we were all, it just dropped, and I was trying to avoid spoilers, and I remember sitting there, and to anyone who's seen Inside, because the album's great, but for me personally, it's just the whole special as like a filmmaker is so good to me. Yeah. I remember that the opening scene, the second he looked up and the light beam hit the disco ball, I said out loud while I was watching, like, oh, this is a masterpiece. Yeah. I wasn't even 2 minutes in, I was like, oh, this is a masterpiece.
Yeah.
And it really was, and
it definitely made me, I mean, I already enjoyed Bo Burnham You know, it was like, oh, that goofy internet kid that makes silly songs. But that, for me, one, made me respect him as a musical artist, but also as a filmmaker.
Absolutely.
100%.
Yeah.
He's a really great artist, and I disagree with some of his cynical takes about just because he's a very cynical person when it comes to society, which obviously, but I definitely agreed with everything, and I just felt the art. Like, I felt the art of that, and Inside really, like, it inspired me to take a chance and be like, oh yeah, well, lighting doesn't necessarily have to be like $1,000. You can just like make, like, he did such subtle, brilliant things in Inside that it made me go, you know what, I'm going to try something and I'm going to do this. And so it was very inspiring. I really, really love Inside, and I think it spoke for a lot of people, and I think it still does.
Yeah. I could talk about Inside
Yeah.
until my fucking face.
We could do
turns
like a
blue.
whole side episode on it.
Honest to God, I think we should. But
Yeah, I'd be down. I think it would be very therapeutic for us.
Absolutely.
So I think that's kind of a good place to...
Can I say one more thing
yes,
about
please.
Inside? Sorry, again,
That's okay.
I could talk about it forever, but I
Same.
think this is important. Specifically coming from the point of view of somebody who has a severe anxiety disorder, Inside is something, especially nowadays, that will make you feel less alone. At least it did for me. And I feel like even if you haven't seen it or listened to it, I genuinely think that just give it a try. If you don't like it, email me, we'll have a conversation. But as somebody who needs that kind of like reminder that I'm not alone in my anxiety and my depression, that shit is chef's kiss, will help me every single time.
Yeah. Without going too far into it, I agree with you so wholeheartedly.
100%. Yeah. I'm just going to go ahead and cap this creative corner off. I took a lot of notes when I listened to Dr. Adam's episode, Be Still. I just want to read a few lines that really stuck with me. If nothing good is permanent, then nothing bad is permanent. Be still. When things are bad, move with purpose. Create the joy you can and never apologize for it. You deserve kindness. Stand your ground, make a fist, and say, I will not be moved. Good shit.
Yeah.
Real good shit.
Good shit.
Absolutely.
Hey, can I be on your podcast?
You want to be on my podcast?
No,
Because I don't know if you noticed this, but we're like 20-something episodes.
We've been secretly recording you this entire
Yeah.
time.
See, oh my God. I've been saying so many embarrassing stories. You wouldn't have put it in the middle of or the beginning of an episode, would you?
No, I cut those out. Don't worry.
He would never make those the cold open of anything.
I am pretty excited for this episode. Not that excited, but pretty excited.
A healthy amount of excited.
That's right. This episode did have commentary, not too much. A few things, we'll get to it when we get to it. So this episode opens up and we're already in a movie, a ninja movie. I don't know if you guys caught this. Jason and Brendan are both in like full ninja outfit. Jason had an orange headband and Brendan had a blue headband. So even though they weren't wearing their traditional clothes, they each had an accent of the color of their normal clothes on there.
Oh, I didn't even notice
Yeah.
that.
Brendan
That's
had
so
blue
smart.
and Jason had orange.
So for the last 3 episodes, it's opened up with them in a movie.
Has it been the last 3?
Yeah.
Yeah, the last one was definitely
And then the one
That
before
thing.
that was Hiatus when they start out with the jazz.
jazz. Oh wow, yeah. So we're just jumping right into the movies. I love it. So yeah, this is a ninja movie. They say in the commentary they got a little anime
Oh, yeah.
vibe going. A lot of kind of jumping around. They jump at each other with a plunger.
They stick together at one
Yeah.
point.
Yeah.
I heard Brendan's like, you're choking me. You're choking me.
Yeah, so Jason gets on Brendan's back and he's choking him, and then yeah, you hear Brendan being like, you're choking me, I can't breathe. And Jason yells, don't drop me. And that's when Melissa enters a scene from kind of like the top stairs in a doorway. She does a flying punch towards Brendan's stomach, but ends up hitting him directly in the crotch.
Right in the twig and berries.
So the scene concludes with Brendan, Jason, and Melissa all on top of each other struggling to get up. That's when Brendan yells cut, and then we see like Brendan, Jason, and Melissa, and it's like a little kind of after meeting after the scene. Melissa is working on her karate moves. Jason is eating a cup of pudding, and Brendan has an ice pack on his head. Brendan asks Melissa how high she can jump, and she asks Brendan, how high do you need? And he says 18 feet, and she gives her best effort and jumps about 4 inches off the ground. This was so weird to me, and I can't tell you how many times I've like tried to count it up. But at one point, Jason's like, that was a haiku. And any dialogue in that scene, I'm like, no, it's not.
I thought it was a pun for how high she jumped, but maybe it's not.
I don't know. He just says that's a haiku. I don't know. Basic haiku is 575, right? Syllables. Yeah. That's a haiku.
I took it as it was a pun for how high she jumped because it's a short poem and she jumped very shortly. I don't know. I could be completely wrong.
It's a thinker.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe I missed that part. I thought he was just saying like what they were saying to each other was a haiku.
Oh.
But I don't know. Maybe I misread it.
It's probably my fault. I'll leave.
Stop. Jason asked Brendan for another pudding cup. And I think that's when they had the dialogue of like, I think Brendan's like, you've already had 6. And Jason's like, really? That was my limit.
Well, he said that was my goal.
Goal, yeah.
And it's like, I've never had a goal for pudding before.
It happened so fast. So Melissa changes the subject and asks Jason what he got Fenton for his birthday. Jason said he got him an eraser. It looks like a football, but it's got a dual use. And they're like, yeah, what's that? And he's like, you can play catch with it. Melissa and Brendan are not very impressed. And Brendan points out you can basically do that with anything. So Melissa's like, yeah, I got him a CD. And Jason's like, that's stupid. And with almost a sinister look, Melissa's like, you can play catch with it.
Love her wit. We love Melissa and we love Eric, and they're cut from the same cloth.
I love that Jason and Melissa continuously nitpick at each other.
Absolutely.
Continuously.
Because they're not friends.
Yeah. I'm seeing it more and more, especially this last couple of episodes. They're picking at each other. They're not there.
Yeah.
Interesting. They asked Brendan what he got Fenton, and that's when Brendan admits he didn't get Fenton anything. So Jason's even like, big fat 0, huh? And Brendan argues he doesn't know Fenton that well, and it's just okay to not get him a present.
So I have a question about this.
Yes.
He says that he only knows him from soccer. Have we seen him on the soccer field before?
No, this is the first time we see him, period.
I was so because I was trying to think of all the background extras at soccer. They have so many they could have used and given a personality to, but
right. I think I would have remembered his evil fucking mug.
She looks so evil.
He's such a little piece of shit.
Yeah.
Fenton's definitely a new character. Starting this episode, will we see him again? Oh, yeah.
Oh, no. Why do we keep just adding shit characters? Oh, my God.
At one point, I wrote down, Fenton's voice makes me want to kill myself.
Well, since we're on it real quick, yes, Fenton does come back. He is, in my opinion, a fairly iconic character. His voice is very annoying. They say in this episode maybe they didn't pitch him up as much as they traditionally do, so we will see him again. He'll sound a little bit different. But, I mean, it's still the same. And, you know, let's just get into it now. We haven't quite seen him yet. Fenton Muley is voiced by Sam Cedar. Sam Cedar is a comedian. Sam Cedar is also the host of the Majority Report.
From my perspective, I was like, who's Fenton, right? And then the way Brendan was treating him, like, I don't know. So, in my opinion, I was trying to figure out if Brendan just didn't like this person because they're like weird or whatever, or is it similar to how he felt about Shannon in the earlier episodes, or if Fenton was just a dick.
Yeah.
And guess what?
He's a dick.
So at this point, Brendan says they need to get back to the movie and mentions that they need effects. Brendan suggests that they suspend Melissa in midair while she kicks him in the stomach. And that's when Jason points out, you know what makes a really cool sound? Pudding. And that's when he squishes the pudding container into his mouth, and it makes a noise for sure, but it also splashes pudding all over Brendan and Melissa. So there you go. The next scene, Brendan is in his room. He's playing with 2 male action figures, but he gave one of them like a shoestring hair bow and is like the female lead. Now, in the commentary, Brendan says that when he was a kid, he just thought like this was how people wrote. They would just play with 2 dolls and then, you know, write down whatever they come up with.
That's so cute.
So that's kind of where this comes in.
I mean, it's a good writing process in
Yeah.
order to like flush out how it's going to look. This is it's similar to how people make tiny models and then for blocking purposes and just using little stick figures or whatever.
But I love it because he's like, it's me at the end of the world. And he's like, oh, this is so good. And he's like so happy
He's
with
throwing
how.
up his hands. He's like, oh, I'm such a good writer.
So downstairs we see Paula open the door, and it's Trudy Muley. This is Fenton's mom. She is voiced by Paula Plum.
God damn it. I was like, that voice sounds so much like I forget her name, but she played Mrs. Foreman on that 70s show. I was like, they have the same voice.
Kitty.
Yep.
Oh,
Kitty
wow.
Foreman. If you listen to it, I'm like, that sounds so much like her.
That's wild. Yeah, so this is Paula Plum who did the voice of Principal Plum, and then she did the voice of Monkey.
Monkey.
I felt so bad for this woman.
Oh my God, I wanted to beat her kid up.
It's so funny. Paula and Trudy have this weird interaction where she's like, yeah, Trudy Muley. And Paula's like, oh, I remember you, Trudy Moody. And she's like, not truly, Trudy. And then she comes in and she's like, thank you, Mrs. Small. And she's like, oh, please call me Paula. And Trudy's like, okay, Paul.
She's getting back at her.
And she's like, no, not Paul, Paul. And then that's when Trudy goes, okay, Paul, does the same hand motion that she does. And that's when Paula's like, get out.
She meant that. She meant that when she said that.
Yeah. And then she's like, oh, I'm kidding.
She said the quiet part out loud.
So that's when Trudy asks if she can talk to Brendan. And Paula is immediately like, what did he do wrong? And Trudy's like, no, he didn't do anything wrong, but he's attending Fenton's birthday party on Saturday, and she would like to ask a favor. Paula, seemingly relieved, says yes, and she's like, yeah, sure, I'll get Brendan for you, and then is just like, Brendan! At first, he's just like screaming back and saying he's not taking guests right now, and Paula's kind of like, well, she can hear you. So he comes running down, and Paula almost immediately is like, okay, you two talk. I'll go to the kitchen and make coffee. And, like, understandably, Brendan's like, nope, don't go. Mm-mm. I think he asked for his with extra coffee. That's when Trudy points out that she knows that he's the one who makes the video films and asked if he would make a birthday tribute to Fenton to show at his party. So Brendan immediately asks how much she wants to spend, and we hear Paula in the other room yell at Brendan. So she's obviously listening in.
What do you mean? It's a business. I got annoyed by that.
Yeah.
No, do it for free.
Well, Brendan clarifies that what he meant was the party is just in 2 days. So the obvious implication is like, you want me to make this whole movie in 2 days? And she reads it as like, oh, thank you so much. Like him agreeing to it. She misread the situation and thinks he says he's going to do it. She gets very excited, gives him a huge hug, says he's a wonderful person, and then immediately leaves.
At this point, I was still like, is Fenton cool? Is he not? Why doesn't he want to make the movie for him? Because his mom seemed pretty chill. And because of who the mom is, I was like, oh, well, this is clearly just like a shy kid who wants some friends and Brendan thinks is weird. And
oh no.
Little do you know. The next scene is the end of a soccer game, and Coach tells all the kids they showed up. And he's thankful for that. Melissa asks Coach why the game ended so early, and that's when Coach explains that the slaughter rule is why the game ended early. They were losing by 20 goals. He said if they would have played the game, they probably would have lost by 100 goals. And then he quickly corrects himself. I don't know why I'm saying me. It's not like I was the one out there like I've never used my legs before. Melissa.
Melissa just asked an innocent question, and he was like attacking her in this scene.
Well, she was heckling him.
What'd she say?
She said, why'd we...
What was the soccer joke?
They realized that Melissa, the actress, the way she like sometimes in a very sheepish, almost defeated voice is like, Coach. They just love that so much. They try to get as many of those. Coach does pick on Melissa a lot.
Yeah, unfair.
Yeah.
He's very mean to everybody, though. He's just like, you little fuckers.
Yeah. So he compares it to when they stop a boxing match too early because one guy is getting too beat up. He's like, but only this is worse. Fractured jaws get wired shut. broken noses become badges of courage, Melissa. He starts to go about how bad, and then he finally just stops himself and says, you know what, never mind, good game. And all the kids like cheer, like, yay, thanks. I played baseball growing up. We called it the 10-run rule because that was when you play like Little League baseball, like you do have to enforce that rule quite a bit.
I've been on both sides of that.
Yeah.
I've been on the, we scored 27 home runs, let's go. And then on the other end, it's like, oh no, we actually lost by 30 points.
Yeah. The official name for it was the 10-run rule. We used to call it the slaughter rule.
Yeah.
No, they were getting slaughtered. They can't.
You can absorb that when you're part of a team and be like, oh yeah, it was all a group effort, and like, we all have to come together and try to get better. When I was in wrestling, we also had a slaughter rule. If they score 15 points on you, like ahead of the points that you have, so 15 ahead of you, like it's just over. And my first year of wrestling, that happened to me quite often.
Oh no.
Because it just like, they take me down, that's 2 points, they put me on back 3 points, and it happened so quickly, and it was so embarrassing. And then when they call it the slaughter rule, and the ref's like, yeah, no, slaughter rule, we gotta get this guy out of here.
Oh.
Yeah. It's a rough one.
Yeah.
Slaughter is such a harsh word.
It really is. We were children. We said that. So.
Oh, one of the exercises they had us do were called suicides. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. We
Yeah.
did that in volleyball, too.
After the kids cheer, that's when Fenton like very weirdly says goodbye. He's like, goodbye, everybody. I'll see you at my party. Mm. And all the kids say goodbye, and Coach is like, okay, Fenton, waddle away now. So Coach tells him thanks for the invite, and that's when Brendan asks him if he's actually going. Coach is like, of course not. It's just, it's nice to get invited. It's nice to feel wanted. And Brendan's like, oh, is that what the card says? And he's like, no, actually it says, Jolly Jeepers, ain't it great? Fenton Muley's turning 8. Eat some ice cream, eat some cake. Jeepers jolly, ain't it great?
I love that there's a callback to this at the in the show.
Yeah.
God, this is terrible.
Jolly Jeepers, this is bad.
Jolly Jeepers. The next scene, Brendan is eating at the table with his mom. Looks like they're having sloppy joes, maybe. And I don't know if they're like beans or something else on the plate.
You know what else I clocked?
What's that?
Milk.
Yeah.
They were drinking fucking milk.
Brendan was pouring an absurd amount of chocolate into his milk.
You have to when you're forced to drink milk at every meal.
Mm-hmm.
I understand that struggle.
It's good for your bones, though.
No, it really is not that great.
They lie to you about that.
The hormones they put in it makes everything worse.
Yeah, they lie to you about it, especially that commercial where the one guy lost his arms, the farmer, the neighbor, you know what I'm talking about?
His arms fall off.
Yeah.
You just unlocked a memory for
me.
Yeah, that's a terrorizing milk commercial.
The thing is, you only need milk like 6 months after you're born.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. We had it every single meal. Steak, you're going to have some milk.
Milk steak. Yeah, he's pouring the chocolate into his milk, and Brendan is talking about how he doesn't want to because he thinks it's stupid. And Paula tells him just tell a few nice stories to the camera, like the time you guys were both late for school and you got locked out for a half an hour. And Brendan says immediately, like, dude, all Fenton did was whine the entire time. So Paula's like, then tell a different story. And Brendan's like, that's really the only story I have. So now he's putting chocolate milk on his sloppy joe. Paula tells him she's not wild about the whole not bringing a gift, so he should just do it and consider that his gift. Brendan like pushes back and he's like, dude, I was invited and I'm going. Like, my presence should be my gift.
I know he was a kid and he was saying it in jest and we're supposed to laugh at it, but I genuinely believe that. Like, if I invite someone, I don't want a gift. I just like show up. That's fine.
But you're also not Fenton.
That's true.
Yeah. And kids parties, I think, are a little different. Once we get older and we kind of get over the whole receiving gifts thing and just want to hang out with our friends, you know?
It's the opposite. We're like, no, you didn't know. You shouldn't have gotten me this gift.
Now I feel bad for a year.
Now I feel bad that I didn't get you a gift last year.
Yeah.
So as they're having this conversation, Brendan casually just asks what a birthday suit is. Paula kind of laughs and she's like, where did you hear that? And he's like, oh, a couple people just asked me if I was going to wear my birthday suit, but I said I wasn't sure. And Paula explains, well, that's what you were born in. And Brendan's like, that won't fit. And Paula's like, no, Brendan, it's your skin. Your birthday suit is when you're naked. And Brendan comments, I'm not going to wear that. That would be gross. And then shoves the entire Sloppy Joe into his mouth, one bite.
I mean, we've all made those kid concoctions.
Sure.
I had a yogurt sandwich one time. Deeply regret that.
What flavor yogurt?
Strawberry. It was
The worst one.
Well, they told me my grandpa invented egg sandwiches, so I was trying to do my own spin on it, and I deeply regret that one.
Did your grandma really invent egg sandwiches?
They lied to me. They lied to a child and told me my grandpa invented the egg sandwich.
That's like how my brother tried to say that our family originated the word neat when it came to like saying something was cool. Oh, that's neat. No.
What a claim to fame.
Yeah.
Well, the next scene, Brendan, I guess he's going for it. He's going to go ahead and record his video for Fenton. I just want to note in this scene, he is not wearing any clothes, but he has a black circled sensor bar over his privates.
His twig and berries.
And then here is Brendan's video for Fenton version 1.
Well, so today is Fenton Muley's birthday. Okay. What kind of a name is Fenton anyway? Sounds like the kind of drug you keep from scratching. Honk, scratch. Speaking of scratching, Fenton is so ugly, you look up the word ugly in the dictionary, you see Fenton, it says see Fenton. I don't want to see him, he's too ugly. Honk. Hey, here's a little note, Fenton, when your mother tells you to eat your greens, she doesn't mean pick your nose. Honk. Whenever I see Fenton at soccer, he's usually whining about something. I think my arm's broken. I think my leg's broken. I think my neck's broken. Hey, I think your record's broken. Honk. Hey, here's a little story. One time Fenton and I got locked out of school for 30 minutes, and guess what Fenton did the whole time? Whined. Honk. But I kid. Hey, if Fenton falls in the forest and no one around to hear him, does he still whine? Honk. Hey, Fenton, you want some wine with that cheese? Hey, Fenton, you want some cheese with that wine? I meant honk. Hey, Fenton, look out, here comes a car. Honk.
Also, the birthday banner in the back said, "Happy birthday, chump."
Yep.
Chump.
I wonder if that scene, especially when it was just on that screen, if it was another kind of time saver scene.
Where they didn't have to animate his mouth.
Right, because it was just his eyes doing all the expressions.
Right, so the visual gag with that is Brendan, when it starts, you see him just normal, and he's got the little sensor bar and everything like that. But then when you get the POV of inside of his camera, he has framed it horribly.
Yeah, you can't even tell he's naked.
It is basically his eyes up. There is a lot of expression in the eyes, but still, he is completely out of frame. So they were saying in commentary when they recorded that scene, Brendan just said honk. He was like, oh, they'll put a sound effect in there. And then when they listen to it, they're like, that's actually just funny. So the animators, they animate the horn in his hand, but the first time he goes to squeeze it and says honk, he gives it a quick look like, oh, this isn't even working. So he just says honk every time. He still squeezes it, but I don't know. I just thought that was like a funny little thing. So now we jump from that scene. We're at Fenton's party, and we will be for pretty much the remainder of this episode.
Just because I'm used to the other episodes where everything moves so quickly and we're in
Right.
so many different spaces, I felt claustrophobic at some points.
Well, this is the first time in season 2 where they don't do the 3-story plot.
Yeah.
This is all just about Fenton, which he would love.
Right. They probably had to, otherwise he was going to yell and complain
His
the whole
fucking
time.
voice, I can't.
Kind of had a 3-plot.
Did it?
Kind of. Like, Jason was...
Yeah, yes. At least
Yeah.
a 2-plot.
But all the plots were happening inside of the
Yeah.
party.
Yeah.
They did say in commentary that this episode, not like overall, but the bones of it kind of has a season finale vibe to it, because in a season finale, they would never know if they were getting renewed. They would try to find some excuse to get as many of the characters together as they can. And they even say in commentary, like, so we can hang out, because we don't know if it was the last time we're going to hang out. Everything happens kind of in that one situation, but the way this episode ends and the way they're walking off in the music has a kind of season finale feel to it.
I was wondering about that because what episode number is
This is episode number 5.
Like, I wrote down, it felt like at the end of an episode of Life is Strange.
Yeah.
Interesting.
It really did, because the way the song was at the end and the way
Yeah.
it panned up.
A nice chill song, a very beautifully lit. Yeah,
We'll get
into
to it.
Yeah, we're at Fenton's party. Trudy opens the door to let Brendan in. She's so happy that Brendan is there and made his video film. This is Brendan's first attempt to correct her that it's either film or video. It runs throughout the entire episode. And it's so funny, too, because that's when, she thanks Brendan for being Fenton's friend, and he tries to correct her on the whole video of him. That's when Fenton comes in and asks Brendan if he got him the film video camera. This is something with the Muleys in general. They have to call it video films, film videos. I think at one point, Trudy calls it a film dio after Brendan tries to correct her the first time. Yeah, Fenton comes in and asks if that's his film video camera. Trudy informs him, no, Brendan made you a film dio about your birthday, and that is your gift. Fenton is immediately pissed off. Saying that's not a gift. That's a cheap way of getting out of a gift. He wants a real gift. He wants the film video camera.
No.
Mrs. Muley, you can tell, this ain't the first time she's had to deal with this shit. So she's in damage control. She's trying to settle Fenton down. Eventually, she starts to cry, and that's when Brendan is like, I'm going to move it along to where the food is. And that's when Fenton's like, yeah, why don't you have some real food? Or better yet, take a picture of the food and take it home with you. This scene ends with Trudy just telling Fenton, she's just trying to make him happy. And Fenton yelling at her that he wants a film video camera.
It made me so uncomfortable. Have you guys ever been to those types of birthday parties? Have you ever been to a spoiled kid's birthday party?
I'm sure I have.
You blocked it out?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm just thinking of the Dudleys when he's all like, how many gifts are there?
Last year I had 37.
I don't care how big they are. That's the only reference I have in my head.
Yeah.
We're in the party now. I do think they use a lot of very clever transitions. Sometimes we just transition by backing out of a room and panning over. I think they do a pretty good job of keeping the transitions fresh and kind of navigating the fact that they are just in the same place. We see Brendan, and he's talking to two random party members. He's breaking down the Star Wars trilogy, saying it's all about the hero's journey, but he's going to write a movie that goes beyond the Star Wars trilogy.
I have a question about this scene.
Yes.
Is this a costume party? Because it looks like these two people are in costume. The dude has a Star Trek type.
I did write that down, that he has a Star Trek type. I think these are just
eye patch.
two nerds, two dorks. I didn't get
Every
the
party is a
impression-
costume party for them.
Yeah. I mean, Melissa was wearing a nicer dress.
Yeah.
Brendan's wearing the same thing. It seems like Fenton was wearing what he traditionally wears. Now, I think these were two maybe slightly more eccentric characters for whatever reason. But no, you're right. The one guy, I got kind of a Star Trek vibe from his outfit.
I tried doodling him and it did not go well. But I also just, while we were watching this scene with all the characters, I just wrote down, who are you people? Because I've never seen any of these. There's so many new you have characters that you've already made designs for.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
A
lot of new ones in this.
I'm surprised you didn't doodle Fenton.
No.
No. Oh, that's too bad.
I doodled his mom. I doodled either Walter or Perry, one of those. I tried the clown, and then I got the Star Trek dude with the eye patch.
The Star Trek looking dude, he's like, wow. And then, it was the girl who's like, what are you going to call it? And he's like, I'm going to call it, Can Star Wars Do This?
Nice.
And that's when the eye patch kid was like, wow. And Brandon walks away like, I need to go talk to someone else. You guys are dorks.
Didn't he ask what's it going to be about?
What's it about?
Yeah, that was it. Yeah.
So as he's walking away, we pan away from Brendan and we go to Fenton in the kitchen yelling at his mom that she got the wrong tortilla chips. She got the blue ones. He wanted the white ones. Or was it she got the white ones? He wanted the blue ones.
I think you were right the first time.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't think it really matters. I think Fenton just wants an excuse to yell at his mom.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I felt so bad for his mom the entire episode.
The way she deals with him, it just breaks your heart because you're like, oh, she's had to do this
every day since birth.
Yeah.
We have to talk about Fenton.
That's when Walter and Perry come in and they interrupt to ask Mrs. Mealy where the bathroom is. So she explains there's one bathroom upstairs and one down the hall, but Fenton is still yelling at her. Walter and Perry are talking about going to the same bathroom, and Trudy is like, no, one at a time. And Fenton is getting increasingly enraged. And that's when Walter and Perry are like, it's okay to cry sometimes.
Big facts. They were dressed the same.
Yeah.
They had matching outfits. That's how you know they're together.
I think Walter and Perry were the MVPs of the episode.
Oh, yeah.
They made things a lot easier to take in.
Yeah.
I thought Fenton was going to yell. When he started yelling at him, I was like, you leave them alone. Don't touch her, you bitch.
We pull back from the kitchen and we pan over, and Brendan is holding a little bowl of candy, and he's talking to a character that hasn't been named yet. Did this character remind you guys of anybody? The Skunk Scout?
Oh,
I got this badge
Mr. Adelberg.
Yeah.
by getting a this badge.
This is why another reason why I thought it might be a costume party, because he was like dressed up like a
He was just wearing his Skunk Scout uniform.
yeah.
Yeah.
This is just a weird assortment of... You said new character that we haven't... So is that one coming back?
This is Junior Adelberg.
So I was right.
Yes,
Yeah.
this is Ken Adelberg's son. He does come back. Skunk Scouts comes back.
Oh shit.
But not Thacker? What the fuck? What the fuck is going on?
I don't know what to tell you. So he's telling Brendan about the Skunk Scouts and how they're like a big family. A family that wears the same clothes. And Brendan comments that he couldn't do something like that unless he was like ultimate Skunk Scout commander or something. Melissa interrupts their conversation to ask Brendan if she could speak to him. He agrees, and Melissa voices her concern that Jason, he's been eating too much candy, drinking a lot of soda. Brendan explains he had a rough week. He flunked 3 tests, and he needs to unwind. So this is a really cool transition. Brendan throws a piece of candy up in the air, and then it falls, and it's Jason throwing the candy and catching it with his mouth.
Here we go.
Jason, I'm trying to root for you, man.
Yeah, these are 2 rough Jason episodes back to back.
They really are, aren't they?
Yeah.
And we didn't even talk about it earlier in the episode, right in the beginning when they were doing the ninja episode or the ninja movie, where he just started blowing pudding on everybody and then like pouring it all over himself. And I remember at that point going, oh, this does not bode well.
No.
Yeah.
Oh, Jason.
So Jason's face is just covered in chocolate. Melissa tells him to stop and that he's had enough and he's embarrassing her. And Jason like mocks her. Melissa says that Jason is embarrassing himself, and Jason shoots back. No, you're embarrassing me. You're embarrassing me. She makes a comment. People are looking at him, and he retorts that the only thing people are looking at is her rich bitch dress.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Rousers.
I remember when that happened, I was like, did he just say that?
Yeah.
Are you allowed to say that? He doesn't even go here.
You wouldn't say it on UPN, that's for sure. So Melissa is like, you've had enough. And Jason is like, the only thing I've had enough of is you. So she makes a comment that she's only trying to help. And Jason, for like a second, kind of like clings to her. And he's like, help me, Melissa.
Help me.
Help me, Melissa.
This is a call for help, but man.
Like a second of clarity. And he's like, no, Melissa, help me. But Mrs. Mealy walks up with a bowl of candy and asks if they would like any. And Jason immediately is like, gotta go.
Yeah, 1 second.
Too real.
Is it?
Of his actions for over consuming.
Oh, yeah. Okay, that's fair.
Yeah.
Okay, I was just wondering, because this kind of felt out of nowhere. I didn't know what the joke was going to... I thought it was like, oh, the fat kid's eating like more food, but then it turns into a whole addiction.
This is a running bit in this show. This comes up a couple more times that Jason has an addiction to candy and soda. Something that he has to deal with and learn to accept or learn to whatever. And they make it a drug addiction. They make it very much, I mean, he is fucking addicted. He is acting out of pocket. His pupils are all over the place.
It's similar to, and I don't know if either of you know this, but the chocolate boy from Hey Arnold.
I'm trying to think.
The one who was addicted to chocolate and would do anything for chocolate, and like people would make fun of him and give him some chocolate.
That sounds vaguely familiar.
He had the whole episode where he talks like Arnold's sitting there. He's like, "Why do you have an addiction to chocolate?" And he talks about this time where he had a babysitter who left, and then he went upstairs and ate all the chocolate.
Dude.
There you are. There it is.
All these memories getting unlocked.
Yeah.
That's crazy, dude. I haven't watched Hey Arnold in a fucking minute.
Hey Arnold was great.
It really is.
That was a lot more subtle of an episode dealing with addiction. This one has some...
Yeah.
Well, the next scene, Brendan is speaking to 3 girls, asking them if they are enjoying the festivities. He takes a sip of his drink and spills it all over his shirt. commenting he must have a hole in his lip. So he makes a joke that his clothes are a rental, and it's a good thing he's not wearing his birthday suit.
Just learned about it.
They walk away, and thankfully that's when Trudy walks up, and I don't know if you caught it. She definitely calls him Brandon and asks him to come with her into the kitchen. So they're in the kitchen. Mrs. Muley tells Brendan that she is so happy that he made the video film because Fenton really doesn't have a lot of friends.
I wonder why.
I'm surprised so many people showed up to his party, to be honest.
Yeah,
with
kind of
you.
weird, right?
I think it was just the way that Fenton is. He'd probably come and yell at them over it later. Why didn't anyone come to my party?
Yeah, life lessons. Yeah, learn them.
She hopes that Brendan told the story about the time that him and Fenton were locked out of the school. A story that Brendan already said Fenton just whined the whole time. But Mrs. Muley explains that this is actually Fenton's favorite story, and he talks about it all the time.
I want to hear Fenton tell the story and like why he thinks of it so fondly.
She gives Brendan a hug and thanks him profusely.
This is the only part I felt bad for. Like, when he made the video, I was like, oh no, I see where this is going. Oh no, we're going to feel bad for Fenton. Don't show the video. But then throughout the video, I was like, no, I cannot wait until they show this video.
Right.
Fuck this kid. Yeah. And then when she hugged him, I was like, oh, damn it.
Right. We just move right along into the next scene. Mrs. Muley is explaining before we open the gifts, Brendan is going to show his little video film.
His little look when she said that, he was so irritated at that point.
Of course, Fenton is impatient. He's like, I want to open my gifts now. And she's like, well, first we got something a little special. And he's like, a car? And she goes on to explain, no, it's the video from Brendan. Brendan is visibly upset. He doesn't want to make Mrs. Muley upset as well. So he says that he cannot play the video. It's not ready. Melissa kind of calls him out and she's like, nope, it's ready. It's all hooked up. And that's when Brendan like totally throws Melissa under the bus. And he's like, no, I don't think Melissa hooked it up properly. So then he kind of like on the lowdown, like tells Melissa like, we can't play the video. It's very mean to Fenton, and Mrs. Muley was super nice to me, and now I feel bad.
Was it really on the down low? Because it looked like everybody could hear what he was saying.
Right. Well, he was kind of like, it seemed like he was doing it like through clenched teeth, through the side of his mouth. Well, and that makes sense too, because Brendan is like, she gave me a hug, and Melissa's like, a mug?
You were mugged?
So Melissa eventually kind of picks up on what's going on. Brendan is like, yeah, no, the film isn't ready. It's poor quality and it's beneath the standard of doing things above me. He says he's going to work on it and show it later. Melissa chimes in and now she's like, yeah, it's horrible. It's unwatchable. Even a monkey can do better. Brendan's like, all right, like maybe chill a little bit.
I mean, she's just helping. She's a good friend.
So everyone starts chanting that they want the video. And it gets to a point where Fenton kind of just loses it, yells for them to shut up, and that they're ruining his party. Mrs. Muley tells him not to get upset, and Fenton continues to whine. So Trudy finally agrees that, yeah, okay, Brendan is ruining your party. And that's when Coach McGurk busts in with a six-pack in each hand.
I wrote down, and now it's a party.
He busts in, and he's like, let the games begin. Quickly assesses the situation, and then says, jolly jeepers. This sucks. So the next scene we see Fenton, he's getting ready to open presents. As we pan over, we see Jason on a couch, and it is just littered with candy, chips, soda, cake. In between bites, he tells Fenton, he's like, that's from me, it's erasure. That's from me, it's an eraser. And that's when Melissa is like, don't ruin it. And Jason is like, back off.
Yeah. Was this the part where he... No, I can't remember. I think that's a little bit later when...
They were outside for that.
Yeah.
So
okay.
Fenton opens the present, and he's very disappointed.
So is this an eraser? It sucks.
I hope the next present's better.
So we hear him open the next present, and he's like, wow, a soccer ball. We see McGurk. He's got 2 beers in one hand, and he's like, I'm going to need that back at the end.
After today. And then he winks at him, I think.
And then he gets the CD and points out, you got me a CD last year. And Melissa's like, did I? And he's like, you couldn't think of anything else? And luckily, that's when Trudy comes in with cake and ice cream. Did she get him the exact same CD? I mean, if she got him a different CD, who cares?
Yeah, That was the part I was like, which CD was it? Was it a different one?
I feel like in the late 90s, early 2000s, I would get CDs all the time as gifts.
Oh, yeah, same. They're my favorite.
Especially a mix CD. Someone like put the time in.
Yes, I love giving out mix CDs.
It's real fun.
So the next scene, Melissa approaches Brendan as he's sitting on the floor working on his new version of Fenton's film. She asks Brendan how it's going, and Brendan is like, terribly. You cannot make this kid look good. And Melissa points out that he's kind of a jerk. And Brendan shoots back like, kind of. But then Fenton walks by and they're both like, hey, hi Fenton, great party.
What's going on, kid?
Being fake to his face.
Yeah. After that scene, it's funny because it kind of like is on a black screen for a minute. And I'm like, oh, what's going on here? And it's revealed that it's Jason. He's slowly waking up from his candy coma. We got Jason and Melissa is there. And Jason is kind of just head to toe covered in chocolate.
This is rough.
Oh,
You blacked out, Jason.
Oh, I did.
Yes, it
You're not my mother.
Jason, listen to me. You've had enough.
Let's have more gummy bears. That will
No,
help.
no more. It
Gummy
doesn't
bears will help it.
What are you trying to forget?
I'm not forgetting anything. I'm just... Melissa,
You can't even stand
I
straight.
can stand fine. Do me a favor.
What?
Just one piece, baby.
Jason, I called you a cab.
Baby, a little taste ain't gonna kill me.
You don't even sound like yourself.
What are you talking about? I sound fine.
You're not fine.
I'm fine.
You-
All right, look. Look at me. Look at me.
I'm
Okay?
looking at you and I don't like what I see.
Melissa, come on. Don't do this. Kiss me. Come on.
It's the sugar talking.
Like,
Get
honey,
off, you're all sticky.
It's okay. It's just candy. Comes out in the wash. Everything does.
Oh,
Listen,
my.
look at me in the eye. Melissa, don't do this. For the love of God, I just want one more choo-choo. Please, cake. Please,
Jason,
cake,
this is
please.
harder for me than it is for you. Go!
No! No! Let me out! I'll get you for this!
So he not only calls Melissa baby, but then tries to kiss her.
No,
He sure does.
He says, kiss me.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then he's like, I don't know, comes out in the wash, everything dies, and winks at her.
Creep vibes.
Oh, yeah, yeah. Everyone tell me they love Jason right now.
I love Jason.
I don't know, man. I could go on a rant.
Just like
I could
every
go on a rant.
person, he's got his ups, he's got his downs. He's not a perfect person, but ultimately, yes, I do love Jason. I'll say it.
Okay. I'm sure there's stuff that happens later in the show that will redeem him, but these last two episodes have been rough.
These have been some
And,
rough
like,
Jason episodes. Yes.
to shit on Melissa and be mad that she's the star of the show. Well, I know that candy is a drug reference, but the truth comes out.
Yeah.
And like it's like if he has a crush on Melissa while simultaneously like not wanting her to be the center of it. Ooh, I'm not going to go on this rant. I'm not going to go on this rant.
Are you sure about that?
Because it's like, if it is revealed that this motherfucker has a crush on Melissa, I'm going to be fucking pissed because he has done nothing but treat her like shit. And so that means that he does not respect her as an actor or as a person and only sees her as somebody to have a crush upon. To kiss, to call baby, to help me, Melissa, fix me, Melissa, fuck you.
See, now you're now you're seeing it. I think that mythos, right, of that idea of, oh, if they're like being mean to you or insulting you, they have a crush on you.
Hate that shit.
I
Yep.
hated it. Fucked with me growing up.
Same.
Oh, okay. So this person who's clearly being mean to me and bullying me, they have a crush. Oh, well, I got a chance now.
Yeah,
It's-
and then on the opposite end of the coin, be like, oh, if I have a crush on somebody, I have to be mean to them?
yeah, dude, it's so fucked up. Listen, I know nobody's perfect, so I'll give it to this. But this scene was so rough to watch, and especially
Yeah.
because Melissa only cares about his well-being, is like getting him a
Absolutely.
taxi home to get him out of here, and talking to Brendan like, I'm worried about him. Like, she is the ultimate friend, especially like, no, I just hooked up the camera for you. No, she gave me a hug. Mug? Oh yeah, you're right. Okay, so let's try to fix this for you. And Melissa's always S tier.
Yeah,
well,
she's
except
a
for that
real
one
one.
time.
Yeah,
when Carlos Mencia was.
Here's the thing. I think
writer's room.
Brendan, Jason, and Melissa are all great characters. Like I said, they have their ups, they have their downs, they have their flaws. They grow, they learn. Melissa probably is consistently the realest one.
Yeah. We love her. And
For
her dad.
sure.
And her dad.
Yeah. I mean, we love Melissa because Eric is such a good dad.
Yeah, I mean, she is great because Eric raised her.
Yeah. And where's Jason's mom?
We don't know. We've never met her. We just
She's
saw
on
a
the
drawing of her.
campaign poster
Yeah.
for Think Big, Vote Small.
Well, if it's 8 hours away from here.
We're back at Fenton's party. We have a clown doing a magic trick. He asks Melissa, is your name Melissa or is it Queen Melissa? And proceeds to pull a Queen of Hearts from behind her ear. The kids seem genuinely impressed, and that's when McGurk walks up and tells them, hey, it's a trick deck. Every other card's a Queen of Hearts. So the clown quickly tells him, like, hey, give me a break, buddy. I'm just trying to earn $30 here.
That hurt. That hurt.
Yeah.
Clown is also voiced by Sam Cedar, who does the voice of Fenton Muley. The fact that he tells him, hey, buddy, I'm just trying to earn $30 here, that is wild to me. Here's a little lore about your boy Timmy Blaze. I was a clown in like 2004, 2005.
Yeah.
And back then, our rates were $100 an hour.
Wow.
That was 2004.
Wow. That's a lot. That's way more than I was expecting.
Yeah.
Well, that was the rate to rent a clown out. I would see about 60 of that. But still. So if this dude was doing maybe 30 minutes for $30, okay. Dude, $30 for a clown, that's not good money at all.
Did you like show up and hang out at the entire party? Or did you show up for 30 minutes and leave?
Could depend. Traditionally, I was rented out by the hour.
Gotcha.
Yeah. An hour was kind of the minimum.
Did you only do kids' parties, or what was like the general vibe that you would go with?
It was kids' parties. It wasn't always a clown. Sometimes it was characters, but
Ever have a kid like kick you or something?
no, I have accidentally kicked a kid.
Oh no!
One of my first parties, it was Scooby-Doo, and it was one of the big like mascot
Oh, you can
heads,
barely
and you
see
would
out
see out of the dude like a foot and a half in front of me. I couldn't see I couldn't. And they're like, "Go run with the kids," and I'm like, "Okay," and I go to run and just like completely
Punted a child.
probably. And I had to be like, "Rut-row."
You do the thing where you grab your face and your eyes, and oh no,
Oh no! Those costumes were hot as shit.
I love those videos where it's like the weird Spider-Man characters doing dances in front of kids. Just
One of those may have been me. Coach didn't think the clown was going to go for the deal, so then it cuts to Coach doing a magic trick with a soccer ball. He asks him where the ball went, and Melissa's like, in your other hand? And Coach is like, well, yeah, it's hard to do magic tricks with a soccer ball. He's like, I can put it behind my back. So he pulls out a pair of dice, and he's like, all right, who wants to play dice? He asks Melissa if she has any money, and she's like, well, I have $2. And Coach takes it. He's like, okay, $2. You got $1, I got $1.
technically, they're both mine.
I don't know if you guys caught this, because she's like, I don't know how to play dice. He's like, just roll the dice. She rolls the dice, and he's like, oh, 4, you lose. She rolled a 7. I don't know if he was just saying, oh, yep, 4, nope, you lose, sorry. She definitely rolled a 7. He's like, you lose, takes all of her money.
I don't know how dice work, so
Yeah, I'm not sure what they're playing.
all I know is like craps is a thing.
Right. So, all right, he's like, all right, who else wants to roll the bones? And then he asks Melissa, he's like, what's that kid's name? And Melissa turns, and to her horror, Jason is back.
Yeah.
He's under the table. He's eating a bowl of candy, and Melissa is very obviously worried.
McGurk wouldn't know Jason's name because he's not in soccer.
Yep, this was the first kind of little reminder for me. I'm like, oh, right, yeah, Coach doesn't know Jason's name.
Haven't interacted
is
or
their
been in the same room at all.
Matter of fact, I know the exact episode where they have their first interaction.
Oh shit!
And that's, I think, not until the beginning of season 3.
Really?
That's so crazy. First off, when the taxi came and picked up Jason, I knew he was coming back.
They always come back.
They always come back. And
Yeah.
He's just back under the table eating
Yep.
some.
His pupils are like all over the place. So now McGurk is like, okay, I'm going to do a trick that even Houdini couldn't do. And he starts inviting children to punch him in the stomach. I love it. Walter and Perry are approaching together, and they can't decide who goes first. So they just both punch him at the same time.
I thought they were going to kill McGurk this one. Because that's how Houdini went.
Yeah.
Right.
I love the line where he's like, this is even Houdini couldn't do that. And she's like, who? And he's like, no, Houdini.
Yeah.
That's clever.
So we have like the quickest scene ever where it's just Jason looking into a mirror asking himself, what have I become?
Who are you?
Yeah.
And then he rubs his shit smeared hands on it.
It's chocolate.
Yeah, it's interpretive.
We then cut to Walter. He's dancing with a random girl at the party, and Perry comes in to cut in, and of course they dance with each other. Perry even kind of asks, like, who is that? And Walter's like, I don't know. And so that's when they decide when they get older, they're going to live together.
So cute.
And they're going to get a van, and they're going to live in it, and they're going to drive it.
I low-key felt a little called out because I've definitely had that conversation with Tim. We should get a van and live in it and go travel.
I mean, that's the best way to go about it.
Yeah.
Well, and we're equally as adorable, I think.
Aww.
Walter and Perry were what was giving me good vibes this episode.
Oh, yeah. They give everybody good vibes every episode that they're in, at least.
Not Fenton.
Fuck Fenton.
Have we talked about like how much of a dick Fenton is? Like,
Oh, yeah, he's the
I
worst.
think we've touched down on it
Yeah.
a couple times.
but he goes into it with everybody. Like, Mom, you're a piece of shit. You should have got me a fucking pony. And she's like,
Yeah.
oh well, it's actually no. I wanted a pony this year. It's like,
Right.
strange.
Yeah, are we really that surprised he has, like, no friends? Absolutely not. He comes back, is he just as obnoxious? Absolutely, yes. Yeah, he's very annoying. He's just annoying for the sake of being annoying. Yeah, jolly jeepers.
There's a wrestler named MJF who reminds me so much of Fenton.
Really?
Yeah, he's like a heel.
Yeah, he's a heel, and he talks so much shit all the time, and he's a great talker. One of his finishers is called a heat seeker because of how much heat he gains as a heel, because he's a perfect heel or whatever. But the whole time I was watching Fenton, I was like, this is MJF. This is
That's
MJF.
The next scene, Mrs. Muley is calling attention to everybody because Brendan is ready to show his film for Fenton. Brendan explains that the film, he's trying to capture the real Fenton. So he presents his film titled Fenton Is. So the movie opens with a voiceover stating it's Fenton Muley's birthday as it pans across some family photos, finishing it with a question, but who is Fenton Muley? He then says Fenton is thoughtful. And it shows him telling a girl that her new sweater is ugly. He says Fenton is generous. And it shows Fenton pulling a toy away from Perry. I love this because Perry looks around. He's like, Walter, where are you?
Yeah. Walter, save me.
And then the last one is Fenton is grateful. And then it cuts to Fenton yelling at his mom saying, no, this party is not great at all. That's when he points out he wants the pony ride. He proceeds to belittle his mom. And everyone at the party is visibly uncomfortable. I think Walter and Perry are sitting next to Fenton, and they're like consoling each other. They're like sobbing.
Oh.
That's when he tells his mom he doesn't love her anymore.
That one hurt me.
Yeah.
That one was rough.
Fenton is the worst.
Yeah.
So now the movie's over, and Fenton is yelling at Brendan, saying that he ruined the party, he made everyone hate him, and people started leaving. Like, Fenton is continuing to yell at his mom, telling her it's all her fault, and that everyone hates him because of her.
I love the subtle face change on McGurk because he had like a little grin on his face like he was enjoying the video, and then as soon as Fenton was like going off on people, you just see it drop to a frown, and it's like, yes, it's coming.
Well, it is because that's when Coach McGurk unloads on Fenton. He tells him to shut up. He says, stop your weaselly little crying, apologize to your mother, and apologize to everyone else. Fenton is like taken aback. He's even like, what? And Coach McGurk is like, no! And Fenton's even like, I'm sorry.
Fenton's mom was definitely feeling some movement in her waters after McGurk did that. She was like, oh, hello.
Oh, yeah.
You can call me John.
She sees an adult stand up to her child, and she is Coach McGurk. Yeah, would you? Oh, yeah, she asks, she's Coach McGurk, would you like a cup of coffee? And then they do the awkward, no, call me John. He's like, Mrs. Muley, and she's call me Trudy.
Call me the soccer comic.
I loved that Coach was like, Mrs. Muley, do you want to punch me in the stomach? And she's like, yes. She's got her arm like already cocked back.
Damn, they immediately went to the kink.
Not just, I think she's got some aggression she needs to get out.
Well, he can take a punch to the stomach.
Yeah, absolutely. After that kid, you're going to have some aggression.
Yeah.
Fenton asks, "What about my party?" And Trudy yells at him to go to his room.
Thank
Finally.
God.
It's about damn time.
That was the good conclusion of the episode.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's pretty much for inside the party. The final scene is everyone leaving the party. Walter and Perry skipping out, like holding hands, their faces like smashed up against each other.
The perfect couple.
You love to see it. So Jason approaches Brendan and Melissa very sheepishly. He apologizes for his inappropriate behavior. They forgive him like very quickly.
Too quickly, you might.
They're like, "Hey, don't worry about it. Forget about it." I think they were just like, let's just move on from this whole situation. So they're walking away into the sunset. It is a beautiful scene.
It is not only a beautiful scene, it's so, the audio is getting quieter as they're walking away. It's very cinematic.
Yes.
And the music
is great.
So different too. Is it still the Home Movies theme song, just played in a different way?
They did say in the commentary that it was like kind of a bounce back between two chords with a little bit of the Home Movies theme inside of it. I've listened to it so many times that I'm just not quite hearing it, but it's really hard too because like the first like half of it is with dialogue over it. I think my brother has the complete series box set, and that has an audio CD in it. So I'm going to ask him if maybe that song's on there, if we can get like a clean rip of it and listen.
That'd be dope. I would actually really like it because the song is so good. Like I said, it felt like the ending of Life is Strange episode just because of the song alone.
Yeah, it was very cinematic. It did have a season finale kind of vibe to it, but it wasn't. And one of the things they mentioned in commentary that it's just this thing that happens between friends where they were at this party, all this stuff happened, but then ultimately they leave just talking about nothing. Just being friends and just having those long conversations about nothing relevant, really. And that's kind of, well, okay. So they're walking away. They're talking about, the party. Jason asks if they think that there'll actually be a pony ride next year, and Brendan makes a comment. Hey, there's only one way to find out. They kind of dog on Brendan a little bit. They tell him nice gift, and Jason even says, what would have made it better? Some special effects, kind of parodying what Brendan was saying at the beginning of the episode about the ninja film. They kick around some ideas for future movies where they climb telephone poles and fix them. The ideas kind of get wilder and wilder. I think there's a fight on a bus and this, that, and the other. And so Jason suggests they climb on an electric pole and Melissa gets electrocuted. Then they jump onto a helicopter and Melissa gets split in half. That's when Melissa asks, why do all the bad things have to happen to her? And that's when Brendan makes the comment that it's funnier when it happens to the girl.
There's a conversation to be had there.
That is the end of season 2, episode 5, The Party.
The party?
I do want to say Melissa first is the one that suggests that she pushes Jason off of a building onto a bus. Like, that was her first idea.
So do you think this was just an escalation of them kind of going back and forth?
I think it was unwarranted escalation.
Oh, for sure.
I think Melissa was like, this is an idea, and then they're like, it's funnier if it was you. Like,
well, the thing is, if it was a retaliation, Brendan was the one who said it, so, he had no horse in this race. He didn't need to say shit.
And so...
That's live. That's what people say.
I have thoughts about violence in movies because when it happens to a woman, it's more rare. Because when violence towards men, you mow down an army of men and no one really bats an eye. And so when it happens to a woman, it's like the final girl situation in horror and whatnot. So I get what they're trying to say, but it was the last line of the episode.
But is it funny though?
No, I don't think it's funny.
That was the thing. It was funny when I don't know, man.
Listen, I'm on your side. If you go off, Queen.
No, we all know what I'm gonna say. We're all thinking it.
But are we hearing it?
I mean, it's
that's life.
It's life. It's not gonna change.
It was such a weird line to end it on, I think.
Yeah. Yeah,
It was
especially
really
since
unprompted.
like Melissa was just doing her best the entire episode. Like she gets yelled at McGurk in the beginning.
Yeah.
She has to deal with Jason's messy ass the entire
Yeah.
time.
She was
Melissa-
helping Brendan.
She's helping Brendan and then get told that she didn't do it right. And then it's like, oh, well, it's actually funnier when you get hurt than when we get hurt. And it's like, clearly.
Melissa was the only consistent one this entire episode. Brendan kind of started shitty, learned a lesson, kind of tried to make a pivot. Jason was just a hot mess.
I mean, I think Brendan's was warranted. Like, at first, when I didn't know who Fenton was, when he was just like, hey,
Sure.
honk, honk, this piece of shit over here, chump, I was like, oh my God, he's really digging into this guy. But then when we get to the party, I'm like, no, yeah, show him the fucking video. Show it to him right
Show
goddamn
it.
now.
So this was a thing I wanted to bring up earlier and then kind of decided to wait till the end to talk about it since we have the whole episode now broken down. This episode had a lot of really similar parallels to the episode it was supposed to be funny. Brendan getting asked to make a video for an occasion. He makes a video. The original video kind of wasn't it. He comes up with something else. I mean, it's not a direct one-to-one, but the kind of structure of, again, you know, Brendan being approached to make a video for an event and him not understanding the assignment. I just thought it was interesting that between two seasons they would do storylines that were not exactly the same, but I think fairly similar.
Yeah. Well, on one hand, when it was Melissa's grandfather, you felt bad because he's just some old man trying to live
Right.
life. And then this one, you don't feel bad at all because Fenton's a
Yeah.
piece of shit.
Yeah.
The only time you feel bad is for his mom, and you know what? Yeah.
She's getting taken care of by McGurk.
She's getting taken care of. Dude.
Yeah, he's going to be like, you want to come to this comedy club and see my set?
Do you want to get in my Reckless mobile?
I got special gloves for it.
And glasses. Mm-hmm. You want to see a dead body?
All right. Any more thoughts on the episode, or should we jump into grades?
Jason was drinking Spaz Cola.
I did see that, yeah.
Yeah. I don't know what the connotation of the word spaz was back then.
I think, I mean, it was the early 2000s, so it was pretty normal, like
Yeah.
most words. But I know that word is, like, very offensive, like, in the UK.
Really?
So to our UK viewers, we're sorry.
We're sorry.
Viewers, listeners, sorry.
They're viewing us
Take a
right now.
second.
When I listen to podcasts, I stare at my podcast player, so I am technically viewing it. I did catch that, the soda brand. I don't know. This one was... It had some very awkward moments. Yeah, Jason's had a rough couple of episodes.
I could get into the rating for Jason, but I just want to say, like, the 3 plot point thing, like, we didn't really see that, and I think that was been my main complaint for the last few episodes, is just how all over the place it is. So I really do like how refreshing it was that we stayed in one place for an
Yeah.
episode and went through a whole storyline that way. I want to give it that for that episode, because it was a good episode. It didn't really, like, go through an arc. There wasn't, like, a huge climax, and then there were, like, the ending felt weird. Yeah, I'm not sure. Especially the ending where they're walking down into the sunset. That felt very unearned for me.
It felt like Tim said earlier, like it felt like a finale. That's usually how Harry Potter ends. They go off, the trio goes off into the sunset. But
Which is why I would love to have been in the writer's room to understand why they wanted to end it that way.
yeah.
Because they could have ended it like, save some for me, like they've done on other episodes, and it
Right.
would have been fun. But now there's a mystery involved of why they ended it this way.
Right.
You could, I mean, you can cut this out, but for the next interview, you could always ask them about that.
Because this episode just seems like a very... I don't know why, especially because it's in the middle of this season. They clearly have another, like, I don't know, 7 episodes or...
8.
8?
Yeah.
Yeah, 8 episodes left to do. So it just felt out of nowhere. I think that's my biggest thing, because even at the end of the episode, I was like, what the fuck is why is the Life is Strange music playing?
All right. Do you want to start with your Jason grade first, or do we want to do episode grade first?
No, I can do Jason grade first. Like, again, this is a bad couple of episodes for Jason. The opening part where he starts spilling pudding on everybody, it's weird every episode where Jason is in it, because he usually just spends the time, like, nitpicking at Melissa or insulting someone or belittling someone's hobby or whatnot. So It started off with all three of those things, and then he was just throwing pudding all over the place, and then he kind of comes at Melissa in many different ways. I don't know. I didn't like him this. I gave him I can't really justify giving him a D because he wasn't like overly horrible. Like, he wasn't overtly horrible. He just seemed to have a problem. I don't like that apology at the end. That was a very under...
Yeah.
What'd you learn? How did you learn it?
I think we're going to find out that he didn't learn.
Yeah.
Right. I think that was just they have to reset everything at the end of the episode. So
Yeah.
He was very unself-aware.
yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
So I gave him a C-, even though
Okay.
I felt that apology was really just like, you just don't want people to be mad at you.
Yeah.
That was
I
a bit
think
of
that's-
Just because the candy's gone, now you got to face your friends.
Right. It did give me very much the vibes of like the friend who gets wasted one night and makes a fool, makes everyone's night terrible, and then that's where they're like, I'm sorry about that, guys.
You know me.
That was my B.
Honestly, I'm still like, should I give him a C- or should I give him a D? Like, I'm more leaning towards D.
Then,
I'm giving him a D.
okay.
Yeah, just the C. Like, I was like, C-. No, I'm giving him a D. This episode was not a good episode for. He's gonna have to work himself up that ladder to get back
Yeah.
to that A. You fell, man.
He was messy.
Yeah.
Messy.
The shit smeared the entire party.
And then the episode itself, how do we feel? Who wants to give a grade first?
I will.
Okay.
Well, I laughed a lot. I wasn't Fenton's voice really just kind of grated my ears really badly. So I feel like I had to knock down some points for that. I know it was part of the character, but like it just, the watching experience, the listening experience, I'm like, my shoulders are up near my ears. So I'm going to give it a B. I'm going to give it a B. Oh, yeah, and the end line pushed it down a little bit.
You're gonna give it a B-.
Just a solid B.
Okay.
Yeah. Walter and Perry really brought it up.
See, yeah, that's the one.
Yeah.
I didn't not enjoy this episode. I think McGurk had a very fun. When he came into the party, I was like, "It's saved.
Yeah.
It's saved. This is so much more fun." Like, he brought the beer. Like, that's fun.
Yeah.
But it just felt like no one really had a lot to do, even though they were all doing things just in different places. Like, they weren't focusing on Brendan and like fixing the movie, and they weren't focusing on Jason, who had an addiction, and they weren't focusing on McGurk, who kicked the clown out. So I gave it a C. I just, especially, I was going to give it a B-, but then at the end, it just felt so unearned. Like, I'm still so weirded out by like the way that they went into the sunset. It just felt so unearned for me.
I will say that this is my favorite McGurk,
Yeah.
is when he's sticking up for ladies.
Hell yeah.
When he's being helpful.
Yeah.
Fenton is a very annoying character because Sam Cedar is a very good actor.
Right.
It's one of those situations. My heart hurts for Trudy Muley in this episode. Every time Fenton is just having a tantrum, you can see in her face that she's like, this is her life. This is what she deals with day in and day out.
She's a broken woman.
Yeah.
She showed up at Brendan's house just like pleading with him in order to make his day a little bit more special.
I thought there were good parts in this episode. For such a cinematic ending, just the wrap up, the conversation, everything didn't hit for me. Why the last line of this episode had to be it's because it's funny when it happens to the girl. I don't know. That just kind of, it was like, oh, this is such a beautiful cinematic scene, and then it's like, and then somebody runs by and farts in your mouth real quick, and you're like, wait, why is this happening?
Yeah.
A+, you say?
No,
That's you.
I gave it a B-.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
I gave it the highest grade.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's the first time.
It might be.
It might
No,
be.
I think there was another time you gave it an A+ when we both gave it A's, and you're like, I won.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
That sounds like me.
Hell yeah. All right. Those are grades. Anything else before we wrap this episode up?
I think that covers it. I was surprised because I was sitting here on this couch watching it. I was like, I don't think I'm enjoying this episode as much as I usually do. I was like, is it just like the mood I'm in? Is this what is going on? And
It's the planets.
yeah, it's.
I don't know.
But then, like, seeing everyone else's opinion. Okay, I'm glad I'm not the only
Right.
one.
Yes.
Well, and I think, too, our last recording session, we did Hiatus, which was such a fun episode, and we all graded it so highly.
Yeah.
I don't know. It kind of feels like maybe the last two episodes were just kind of a fall off from where Hiatus kind of left us.
Yeah.
Well, if anyone out there loves this episode, let us know.
Yeah, please, by all means. The link tree is linktree/RHMpod, or you can email us directly at rhmpod@gmail.com. So other than that, why don't we nosedive into those sweet, sweet plugs? All right, Marcin, why don't you go first?
I'm reaching into my bag of infinite projects here. Season of the Curse 2 is a home movie about two wannabe YouTubers haunted by Halloween spirits in the form of intrusive thoughts. In order to save themselves, they must go inside their own minds to battle toxic masculinity, misogyny, depression, and self-doubt. Everyone that's in this podcast is helping make that film come to life, including my YouTube brother-in-arms, Punkin' Nonstop, who has over 1,000 videos on his YouTube channel, not a hyperbole. It's got tons of independent musicians who have agreed to let us use music or downright make music from scratch for the film. I'm really excited for it. It's one of the first film projects that I actually really believe in the story, and I believe that a lot of people would benefit from seeing it, and I can't wait to see what people think.
So sometimes I paint, sometimes I make things, and sometimes I post that on my Instagram, which is the Artisanal of Oddity. That is Artisanal of Oddity at www.instagram.com. And that's my plug.
And as always, this podcast is brought to you by the Happy Corner Podcast. They were nice enough to donate equipment to us so we could keep this podcast going. So we always want to give them a nice little shout out at the end. The Happy Corner Podcast streams every Sunday at 1:45 Central. And then you can get the audio version wherever you get your podcasts. That's going to do it for this episode of Rewatching Home Movies. Join us next week for Season 2, Episode 6, Impressions. If you liked what you heard, check out our Linktree at linktree/RHMpod. There you can like, follow, and subscribe. Send us an email or leave us a 5-star review. I will read 5-star reviews on the podcast. Thanks to Shannon Conway for the refresh of our logo and Chris Bongat for the use of our theme song. Thanks again to Dr. Adam, and check out the Sister Wives Professor wherever you get your podcast. On behalf of myself, Tim, and my co-hosts Marcin and Adele, thank you for rewatching home movies with us. We'll see you next week. Bye.